Last week, Sony announced their new 85mm 1.4 G Master Mark II, their newest addition to their ever-expanding lineup of lenses. And luckily, I was invited to Sony Kando, where I had the opportunity to play around with this lens for a few days in a variety of settings with the FX3 and the a7C II. And I will say, this video is not a review, but rather just some first impressions and some visual examples, so you can get a better idea of whether or not this lens is right for you, or worth the upgrade over the Mark I. So, without further ado, here we go.
When I walk through the street.
The first setting that I got to use this lens in was a staged Hollywood set with a few actors and lighting provided by the Sony team. This set was a lot of fun to play around with, and honestly was such a perfect playground for this lens, since we had a lot of distractions in the background that we could easily transform into creamy bokeh while shooting at 1.4. The autofocus on this lens did not miss the entire shoot. Even when we lost all of our ambient light and were filming entirely with strobes, I only had to focus on composition and camera movement.
The next day, we had the opportunity to shoot some synchronized swimming in the resort pool, which is honestly something that I never thought I would have the opportunity to capture, but was so entertaining.
I was using the a7C Mark II to capture these at 60 frames per second, so there is that internal crop happening in these frames, essentially turning our 85 into a 135, which I'm definitely not complaining about. The lighting was pretty flat throughout this event, but this new 85 was able to provide a good amount of depth to an otherwise fairly boring backdrop. Also, the talent on display here was downright spectacular.
These final scenes were captured the last evening of our condo retreat, just wandering around the resort with my tripod and seeing what I could find. I absolutely love the fall off from this lens, and the separation from background is making me wonder why I've never owned an 85mm lens before. Honestly, it's such a beautiful look, and it was so fun to play around with. I ended up following around a few portrait photographers as they were staging a stylized bridal shoot as the sun was setting over the ocean, and I gotta say, this lens just made creativity fun. I am not a portrait photographer, and I'm typically out in the mountains with all of these big landscapes around, so this was quite a departure from what I'm used to, but it was such a joy to try something new. Like I said, this isn't a technical review, so there's no takeaways from my end about whether or not you should purchase this lens. That said, I did have a lot of fun playing around with the new 85, and that's what photography and filmmaking are all about at the end of the day. Finding tools that get the job done, are easy to use, and bring joy to the creative process. So I'll probably pick one of these up when it's released at the end of September, but that's just me. I hope you found this video useful, and we'll see you next time.